Hello, how are you today? I'm Sharon Aguilar, and today we're going to be sewing a wonderful wardrobe basic. I am making a dolman. A dolman is an easy pattern for beginners, and I'm using the brushed poly from Fabric Wholesale Direct. I ordered the Dusty Rose, and it's a wonderful soft pink color, and I'm making something for myself as well as for my daughter. The reason I chose the particular pattern that I chose, not only is it just a really easy, quick pattern to make, but it comes in both women's and children's. So I'm going to be making one for me as well as for one of my daughters, and I'll be demonstrating how to sew it using the women's pattern, but it's the exact same pattern for the girls. It's just a little bit smaller for their sizes. So let's start off with talking about the pattern pieces. So you're going to have 3 pattern pieces. So this is your front, and you're going to be cutting it out on the fold, so to give you one front piece. And then this is your back, and you're also going to be cutting it out on the fold. The fold is right here. So I'll be showing you how to do that, as well as you have the option for short sleeves. So if you have, you live in an area where you just need short sleeve tops. If you're doing the short sleeves, then you're going to cut on this line, and I'm going to trim that away because I'm going to be making the long sleeve. So I will be cutting on this line. If you're doing the long sleeve, this is what your piece will look like, and this is your fold. You're going to cut 2 of them out, 1 for each arm. And that's all for the pattern. I'll show you when I'm cutting it out. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about brushed poly, the fabric that I'm using. It is a super soft fabric. It's great for so many different projects. My favorite thing to use it for is any kind of top. It has really good stretch. I'll show you the stretch. I don't usually you can see how it shows. I usually don't like it as for leggings as much as I do for tops. If I use it on bottoms, I'll usually use a fabric or a pattern that is really flowy, because you can see it has wonderful drape. So you can see how all the folds that it gets whenever it drapes. So it works for tops that are tight fitting, or it works for tops that have lots of ease and that are breezy. So it has such a great application for so many projects. So that's why I chose it, is it makes just such a wonderful basic t-shirt. And since it's brushed, it's super soft to the touch, and it's warm because it's made out of polyester. So this is the fabric I'm using. It comes in lots of colors, but of course pink is my favorite. And that's it. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you, I'm going to change the camera and show you the pattern pieces and me sewing it. Let me know if you have any questions, and thank you for joining in. Okay, we are ready to cut out our top. So the first thing you're going to want to do is identify the grain line on your fabric. And it's pretty easy to do because you're going to see all of these lines when you stretch it. So you're going to want to make sure that when you fold your fabric, that you're folding it along all of those little lines to where it's even. That means it'll be running parallel to the selvage of your fabric. The selvage is the edge that wasn't cut, so it's along your yardage. So I'm going to fold mine just enough that I'm able to get this to touch the selvage. And then grab a marker and mark where your center point is on the front. And you're going to want to do the same thing on the back. This will help you in applying your band. Okay, now that you have both your front and your back cut out, we're going to lay them on top of each other. And you can tell which one's the front because it has the low scoop, and then the back doesn't have that low scoop. And now that they're on top of each other, we're going to put the right sides of our fabric facing. You can tell which one is, let me get closer so you can see. You can tell which one is the right side of your fabric by, see, this is the wrong side. And then on the right side, when you stretch it, you're going to have all these little lines. me see if I can get it to focus. It's also the prettier side of your fabric. So just tell which one is that. And then once you have them right sides together, you're gonna sew both of your shoulder seams straight across using a 3/8" seam allowance. So if you're using a regular standard sewing machine, you'll wanna make sure you're using a stretch stitch. I'm gonna be using my serger, and I practice my stitch on scraps, and then I stretch it and make sure that it's a nice and stretchy seam. And then once I know that it's a good and stretchy seam, then I am ready to sew. So let's head to the machine. Okay, now that we have our shoulder seams sewn, we're just going to open up our shirt and we're going to press these seams. And if you have any kind of a decorative trim that you would like to use, you can even sew it on top of these shoulder seams as shown in the instructions. And after you have ironed these, then we're going to hem. We're going to hem our front and our back separately. So in order to hem it, you're going to turn it where the wrong side is facing up, and then you're going to fold under this edge by 1/2 inch all the way around. And one trick, since this is a curved hem and it's not, it's different with the flat hem where you can just fold it exactly. Well, you can't do that on this. So in order to get a nice curved edge, is what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Wonder Tape, and this is completely optional. It's just a way to make things easier. And it is this little tape that washes out once you wash your item, and it just kind of helps to make that hem nice and sticky. So you go along the edge of your hem, just applying this tape, and it's sticky on both sides. I'm going to show you. So see, you put like a strip of the Wonder Tape down, and then once it's pressed to one side of your fabric, then you're going to peel off the backing and then fold your hem where you want it. See, and then that holds your hem down. It kind of stabilizes that hem. And we're going to do this all along the front and the back of the shirt, and then hem them independently. I'm going to use my regular sewing machine using a twin needle. If you have a cover stitch, you can hem with that. Okay, so now I'm over at my regular machine and I'm ready to top stitch using my twin needle. When I use my twin needle, I like to set my stitch length between 3.5 and 3.8, and then I also adjust my tension settings to where it's at the highest my machine will go. And then I put in my twin needle and I just thread it using 2 spools of thread. And now I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to hem both the front and the back independently. And the reason we're doing this and not doing them in the round is because of the shape line of the hem. It would be really hard to get this corner point done, but if you hem them independently, it's not hard at all. So the sleeves we will hem in the round like normal. Okay, so now that we finished the hem, I gave it a really good press with my iron to get it to lay nice and flat. It always makes it look good. And now we're ready to put on our sleeves. And you can go ahead and hem these before you attach them, but on this one, it's not necessary. You can hem them after they're attached and you've tried it on to see if you need to take any off of the length. So whenever I cut mine on the fold, I marked where my fold line is with just a little bitty mark. And I'm going to put the top of the sleeve right sides together with the armhole. And this is where the center matches with the shoulder seam, and I'm going to grab a clip, or you can grab a pin or just something to fasten that center with that shoulder seam. And we're going to put, these are again the right sides together, and we're going to sew all along this edge right here on both. So we're going to put a sleeve on each, just like this. And then I'm going to sew across here. I'm going to start on one side here, lining up those centers. And I'm going to do that again with my serger. You can also use a stretch stitch on your regular machine. Okay, so now you're going to grab your shirt, and it's going to be still inside out, but you're going to see it starting to look like a shirt. And now we're going to sew up our side seams. So we're going to start at the bottom hemline, and we're just going to come all the way up and down all the way to the end of our sleeve. And we're going to do that on both sides, sewing up the entire side seam. And then after that, all we have left is our neckband and hemming our sleeves. Okay, now that we have our side seams sewn, we're going to have a serger tail that's hanging out. So is what you're going to do is either use like a needle to tuck it back in through your seam, or is what I do is I just tuck it under like this, and then I fold that here, and then I just use my machine and I top stitch right here. So I'll just do a little bit of top stitching down at the bottom, and then I'll cut off whatever it didn't get top stitched in. And I'm going to do that on both sides. And then I tried it on just to make sure I liked, sorry for being so close. I tried it on just to make sure I like the sleeve length, and it's wonderful. So I'm going to just fold mine under 1/2 inch and iron it and hem it just the same way that I hemmed the bottom, but this time we're hemming it in the round, not as separate pieces. So it's going to look like this, and whenever I hem the sleeve, I'll turn it inside out so that I can sew it round like this. Okay, I'm at the machine. I have my machine set for a twin needle, and I'm hemming it with a 1/2 inch folded under, and I'm hemming it with my shirt is inside out so that I can stitch on the right side of the fabric. Okay, so now we are going to set our shirt aside, and we're going to cut out our neckband piece. So on the bottom of page 5 in the pattern, there are instructions that show you the width and the length. So for the smallest size, you are cutting out 2 inches wide times 20, let me see what it is, 25.5 inches long. So I'm just going to use my ruler to cut that out. Okay, now that we have our neckband piece cut out, you're going to identify the right side of the neckband, and that's going to be this side. And you're going to put the short ends of that band together like this. So you're folding it in half. And we're going to sew all along this short end, just right here. And after we have sewn on that short end, I'm going to quarter my band and I'm going to quarter my top. I'm going to just sew this down really quick and I'll be right back. Okay, now that I've marked the quarter points on my top and on my band, so on my top is what I did to find the quarter points is I did the halfway points on the front and the back. I put them together and found out what was halfway between them. And now I'm going to grab some clips or some pins or something like that, and you're going to take your band and you're going to fold it in half to where the wrong sides are touching. And you're going to put the seam that looks like this, you're going to put it on the back of your shirt. You can tell which one is the back because it's not nearly as big of a scoop as the front. And you're just going to clip that on the back. And actually, that's on the wrong side. You're going to do it on the right side. So the right side of the band is touching the right side of the shirt. And then I'm going to go around and I'm going to clip my band all around the shirt. Now that I have my band clipped onto my neckline on my shirt, I'm going to head to the machine and we're going to apply it at the serger. Okay, so now we're going to head over to the machine and we're going to sew the neckband onto the top. And I like to sew it with the shirt inside out and the neckband facing up. So we're going to just start, I like to start also on the back of the shirt. You're sewing with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and you're going to be stretching your band to meet your shirt. And make sure that you're not stretching your shirt, that you're only stretching the band to fit between the quarter points. Okay, now that we have our neckband sewn, we're going to just flip it to the right side. So this is what the wrong side of our shirt looks like. And we're just going to flip it up and we're going to push that seam allowance down. And then I'm going to top stitch all along the seam allowance so that the seam allowance, this seam right here, stays attached to the shirt. And that it doesn't flop around while you're wearing it, and that it stays still. So I'm going to go to my regular machine, and I have my twin needle in. If you aren't using a twin needle, you will need to make sure you're using some kind of a stretch stitch on this top stitch that you're doing so that your band is able to move with your seam. And I start on the back. And I'm going to go all around top stitching this seam allowance down onto my shirt. Okay, so now your shirt is done. It is time to give your neckband a nice press as well as all of your top. And I'm so glad that you sewed with me. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this video tutorial.